Hi everyone, so I was out having a walk the other day filming a vlog for Patreon and I was looking for potential scenes to draw and paint and I found this one. So I decided to take a photo and that's the scene that I'm going to be drawing today. So the title of the video then, what to do when it all goes wrong. Well, we'll come to that in just a minute, but first of all I just want to get all the shameless plugs out of the way for Patreon. Just to let you know that this drawing has got 9 videos to accompany this over on my Patreon channel. So it's a full lesson, all in real time, and there's tons of other content over there for you as well. Too much to mention in one video, but there's hundreds of videos over there, all drawing and painting lessons, tips and techniques. I'll leave a link in the description and in the end screen cards at the end of the video. Okay, so back to the video then, what to do when it all goes wrong. Well, when I started this drawing, it was all going fine, no problem at all. And I started out using the grid method there, as you can see. I'm using a slightly different paper to what I usually use. This is Stonehenge paper, 100% cotton, and it's got quite a bit of texture on there. Now, textured papers can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending which way you look at it. The texture on the paper can be fantastic for building up layers and getting nice dark tones of graphite there, but it can also cause you problems when it's time to erase and you need to get very fine detail in there with the eraser. It can be a bit tricky to erase nice clean detail on. But that really wasn't what the problem was entirely. The fact that I couldn't erase clean lines on there did cause a few problems, but really the main problem was me. Let's be honest, a good artist doesn't blame their materials. So I'm not saying I'm a good artist, but I'm just saying, I'm not blaming my materials. It's all down to me, and what happened was I decided to use a little bit of artistic license. Now again, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I decided to add more sunlight to the picture, increase the shadows a little bit, make the trees a little bit lighter, and make that hedge on the left hand side there a little bit more in shadow, and try and get the impression, or the illusion if you like, of sun coming over that hedge there and lighting up the fields a little bit more. So I was trying to make the fields a bit lighter and keep the hedge a little bit darker, just to try and get that effect in the drawing. So that was the plan, to use a little bit of artistic license there. And again, artistic license is a wonderful thing because it allows you to do whatever you want to do in your drawings. You can leave things out, you can add things in, you can move things around, but you've got to remember that if you leave anything out, you've always got something there that you need to fill in again. You're left with a blank space, and if you start changing the light and the direction of shadows and things like that, it can throw the whole picture off. So you've really got to be careful what you're doing with things like that. Now, one of the best things about graphite is it's probably, well, I would say definitely the most forgiving medium that there is. We can erase mistakes. We're not waiting for drying time like with watercolour. We're rushing to try and get the washes on while the paper's still wet and things like that. We haven't got any of that to contend with at all. It's such a forgiving medium in a way that we can literally move it around the paper. We can smudge it from one side of the paper to the other. We can really change things and make alterations when we're working in graphite. So a lot of mistakes, can be easily corrected, but it's always best to try and avoid them in the first place, obviously. But if you do make them, there's always hope for your drawing. You've probably got more chance of saving a graphite drawing than you have a ruined watercolour or something like that. Now, one of the best ways to avoid making mistakes with your pencil drawing is to take regular breaks. This is something I've spoke about on YouTube for the last 4 years, and I'm always talking about it on Patreon. It's such an important thing to remember. In fact, it's part of the technique of drawing, in my opinion. Learning when to take regular breaks, because one of the most important things is to see your drawing with fresh eyes. And if you take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, take your eyes off your drawing, just go and have a drink or something, and then come back with fresh eyes, your drawing looks different. You start to see things in the drawing that you didn't see before. When you were sitting there drawing away for an hour, what happens is you get too close to the wood to see the trees. No pun intended, because I'm drawing trees or anything like that. But it's really what happens. You can get so focused in on the detail and the pencil strokes and everything that you're doing that you're not really aware of really what's going on with your drawing. And it's surprising because as soon as you take a break and you come back, how different the drawing actually looks. And it gives you a fresh lot of information so that you can now start adjusting things and altering things in the drawing. Now this was the mistake that I made. I was trying to get this drawing finished super quick, double quick time, and get it on Patreon, get it on YouTube, and move on to the next one. So I wasn't taking regular breaks, and towards the end, particularly when I was doing the hedge, that's where the problem started, the hedge and the foreground grass. I started to overwork it because I wasn't aware that I was overworking it, but I was going too dark, too detailed, putting too many layers on, and I found it very difficult to erase any highlights and any light areas that I needed. Now, I probably only sat there for maybe 2 hours solid drawing, and usually I take breaks maybe every 40 minutes or so. So it just goes to show you just how important it is, because I was so focused in on the grass area and the hedge area that I didn't really see what was going on right underneath my own eyes. But as soon as I took a break and I came back, I saw all the mistakes that I'd made. Now, because this was an area where I was using artistic license and I wasn't referring to the reference photo for guidance, I was just kind of making things up, and the fact that I'd sat there for too long drawing basically was a recipe for disaster. So if that's something that you're doing in your own drawings, again, I urge you to take regular breaks and come back with a fresh pair of eyes, and you will see the drawing in a different way. And it'll help you to avoid making those mistakes in the first place. But if you do make these mistakes, and you have got a section in your drawing that is overworked, it's looking too dark, or it's just not in harmony with the rest of the drawing. Like I said at the start of the video, graphite is a very forgiving medium, and we can always erase things. We don't have to completely erase things, we can just lighten areas up. We can use a kneadable eraser and roll it up into like a little rolling pin shape, and just gently roll it over the area just to remove the surface layer of graphite. That'll allow you to rework the area again. Now, if you're using one of the hard vinyl type erasers and you're a little bit heavy-handed and you're really rubbing on the paper to get it back to clean white paper, depending what type of paper you're using, you could actually damage the surface of the paper, so that the next layer of graphite that you put on there won't look like the rest of the drawing. It won't look like the same texture of paper. You could actually cause like little bobbles and things like that on the surface of the paper and actually scuff the paper. So particularly with graphite powder that shows up everything, you might run into some problems that way. So a lot of times there's no need to completely erase. We can just lighten certain areas and, like I say, just rework them. So be very careful depending on what type of paper that you're using, if you start erasing with one of the hard plastic vinyl erasers. Now, where we are in the video now, this is the area that I had problems with. I'm going in there with a dark 4B mechanical pencil, and I'm really filling the grain of the paper up there, really trying to get this area nice and dark, so I get a nice kind of dramatic foreground effect, with a dark foreground and the sun coming over the top of the hedge. And it was erasing okay, but I was just about at the point of filling all the texture and the grain of the paper up, and I couldn't really get too many more layers on there. So it was very difficult to erase a 4B mechanical pencil on paper texture that was pretty much full. So what I decided to do, you've probably heard that saying, dance like nobody's watching. Well, what I did was draw like nobody's watching. Although there was nearly 400 people on Patreon watching and 26,000 people on YouTube watching, so no pressure then. Okay, but I still took that mentality of the drawing is not going anywhere, I've got nothing to lose, let's just go for it. Let's be brave, let's not be timid and careful anymore. Let's just really go with our gut instinct and really look at the drawing and really see what it needs. Be honest with yourself and be very brave in situations like this as well. Just dive straight in and just do whatever you think is going to save that drawing, whether it be lightening it up, whether it be getting brave with really dark pencils, really increasing the texture, or whatever it is that you feel that you need to do to the drawing to save it is probably the right thing. Like just there, I used the battery eraser to add some little white flowers. It was just a secondary idea, just to try and lift that area a little bit more and try and take away the fact that it looks a little bit dark and a little bit overworked. So there's always something you can do to save a graphite drawing. This is a finished drawing, by the way. I mean, most of the drawing is okay, but I'm still not happy with that hedge area. But I think I kind of saved it by putting those white flowers there, you know, along that grass verge. So there's always something you can do to repair graphite. Always remember that. There's no such thing, you know, as a completely ruined well, there is such a thing as a completely ruined graphite drawing, but generally, you know, there is so much you can do to save a graphite drawing. So before you rip it up or throw it away, just weigh up your options and just remember, you know, graphite is the most forgiving medium out of all of them, and it's so easy to repair. It really, really is. Okay, so I'll leave you with that thought, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.